And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Caligula is a game about backstabbing and attempting to set up the next emperor of Rome, or perhaps fighting against the next emperor of Rome. It's basically a game, as I said, about backstabbing one another, and people who like backstabbing games might like this game because it's an auction game also, and it has a more slow, ponderous pace to the game rather than something different. It's more of a setup, go. Set up, go. But before I give you some more about what I think about the game, let's look at how the game works. I'm going to apologize right now for not pronouncing a lot of the things here correctly, because a lot of it's in Latin. I have not had Latin, and I just couldn't find the pronunciation on the internet of a lot of these cards. But anyway, this is basically what the setup of the game looks like. As you can see over here, the game starts with Caligula as emperor, and then two people randomly drawn from a pile who are contenders, people who are going to be attempting to take over his throne. Players are people trying to either defend the emperor or help one of these conspirators become the new emperor, and they're going to be doing that through a bidding process. The very first round very first phase of each round is the bidding round, and players are using SPQR tokens. They'll start with tokens that are 0, -1, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and on their turn they simply must put one of these tokens down on one of these cards. You can see there's 5 piles of cards. Each pile is a different color, and 2 of those cards are laid out, and those cards are going to be done in a certain way. And I forgot to mention, turn order is determined by players randomly drawing from a turn order card. And so players are going to take turn putting these out, placing these down. You have to put them out, and once that's done, then the sequentia phase of the game begins. There are these cards here at the bottom, and you can see these right here, called sequentia cards. And these are going to show, well, each one is different, but these first couple show the order in which these cards are resolved. So see this, the first one says green, blue, then orange. So we would start with the first green card, and once we resolve it, we would, the first green card down here, we'd move this one down and then bring out the next green card, and that's how the cards are done. Then we would do blue, and then we would do orange. And so as players bid, they're going to see the order in which the cards are going to be completed. See, it's going to be green, blue, orange, then black, then red, and then we have a different phase, then red, blue, black, another phase, and then orange and green. And so players are going to be doing the different phases, but these cards can be shuffled, these sequential cards can be moved, so you're never really sure which card is going to be resolved first. Much of the game revolves around getting cards from these two decks. They have identical backs so that you can shuffle them in your hands, and when they're on the table you use these two markers to differentiate between them. But you want to get the Pugio cards, which are daggers. They help in the assassination, and usually they will just have Pugio symbol on them, but some of them also have the conspirator symbol on them too, so you can use them as an either or. And then the other deck is the Canaria, or whatever it's called, deck. Same thing. Most of them just have the conspirators on them, but some will also have the symbol of the Pugio on them. And so much of your game is going to be revolving around trying to get as many of those as possible into your hand. As these cards are resolved, it's going to be done based on how each card is set up. And all the cards are different, and you're never really sure. But, for example, down here you see this several statues. That means anybody who places a token on here that's worth at least 4, or a combination of tokens that are worth at least 4, is going to get 2 Pugios, or whatever the card gives you. The next card here, if this is shows a red statue, that means a penalty. If you do not place a token there that's of at least value 3, then you'll lose a Pugio or you'll lose a victory point. And then this one here shows a single statue that's not red, and that basically means the person who has placed the highest amount on that card gets to take the action, which is to change 2 of the sequentia cards. And so there's many different cards. One of them that's important gives you another SPQR token. There are 2 more SPQR tokens, a 5 and a 6. You can see how valuable they would be over the course of a game, and so you want to get those into your hand as quickly as possible. But you're really never sure what kind of cards are going to show up. They might let you move a SPQR token that you already have on the board. You might try to get more Puccio tokens and more conspirator tokens. The different sequentia cards, for example, this one I showed you earlier, that one gives you the conspirators, and this one changes the order of players, and so things are constantly changing back and forth, and eventually you're going to have a plot. I'm not going to explain the plot in complete detail, but basically, players, after every time a sequentia card is played, they have the opportunity to start a plot. To do so, one of the players has to play one of these conspirator cards, and anyone else who wants to play also has to throw in cards with that symbol on, whether they're from the Puccio deck or this deck. Whoever plays the most is the leader, and they're going to pick which one of these gentlemen is going to become, or at least attempt to become, the new emperor. And after everyone does that, you'll be placing favor tokens on that person to show your support. Perhaps there's not enough room for everyone to put their support. If one of the, besides Caligula, is already the emperor, then you might be placing your support on the emperor himself to defend him. And then people defending the emperor or going against the emperor will be playing Puccios. Once we look at the attacking Puccios, subtract the defending Puccios, and if there's enough to kill the guy's life, it shows how many life points he has. Each person has a certain amount of life points. Then the new person becomes the emperor. Victory points are handed out to people depending on whether they helped or didn't help, and we go back and we put out more tokens. And this continues on until the last emperor is killed in the game. It's the final conspirator, and then everyone is going to get points based on how many times they successfully helped out in conspiracies, and there's other victory points that they may have gotten from different things throughout the game. All this sounds very fascinating, and I must say I'm really taken by the theme. I really like the idea of defending and helping out the emperor and such. I guess my biggest hang-up with the game is that placing out all these tokens in different areas doesn't really seem to help the theme at all. The theme might be one thing if I was sending people to the marketplace and working with people and trying to persuade conspirators to join me to help out fighting, but placing tokens on cards so that I can get other cards doesn't work as well with the game itself. Now, the actual conspiracy itself, that makes sense. You play cards, it's kind of tense. Are you going to join a conspiracy or not? Who's playing cards? You might try to mess someone else over. That's very interesting. And actually, I won't even say that the auctions aren't interesting, because they are. They just don't seem to fit the theme of the game. The game seems like it would be a more fast-paced backstabbing game, and that it really slows the game down. And there's always the, is anyone starting a conspiracy? You, no? Okay, next phase. Is anyone doing it? You, no? Oh, you are doing one? Okay, fine, let's go. The game is okay. It's not a bad game, but it's going to require a certain amount of people to play. I think it's going to appeal to Eurogamers more to people who like backstabbing games, and that just seems odd considering the theme, because the theme is going to appeal to people who like that kind of thing, and they're going to be disappointed with a lot of the mechanics in the game. So, have at it you will. I think the game is merely okay. One I would play if asked to, but I probably wouldn't suggest it myself.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.